Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to this full live review of qualifying for the 2018 Brazilian Grand Prix. A very controversial qualifying session here in Sao Paulo. The most controversial qualifying session of 2018. There is no doubt about it, sorry. It has been just a very tense ending to qualifying. Everything that's happened after the debates, everything on Twitter, in the comments section of my videos, it's very intense right now. And the qualifying session and what happened in Q2 again was just so controversial. But hopefully you guys are doing well after the session ended about 3 hours ago. Hopefully you have recovered somewhat after what was quite an interesting qualifying session here in Brazil. But if somehow you missed what happened results wise here in qualifying, well, let me take you through that right now. So Lewis Hamilton is on pole position from Sebastian Vettel second, Bottas third, Raikkonen fourth, Verstappen is in P5, and then Ricciardo P6, Ericsson P7, his best qualifying of his career so far, and then Leclerc 8th, Grosjean 9th, and Pierre Gasly in P10. And then your bottom 10 is Kevin Magnussen, Sergio Perez, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hülkenberg, Sergei Sirotkin, Carlos Sainz, Brendan Hartley, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll, and Stoffel van Dorn. A very interesting grid we're going to have for tomorrow for sure, and I cannot wait for the race already. But let's get in to this review of qualifying and start off with Mercedes, who of course have gone and took pole position. Now first off, I'm going to concentrate on the result and the pace of the Mercedes car and Lewis Hamilton. When it came to Q3, Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton once again produced the goods when it mattered. That's what they've been doing all season long. That's why Lewis Hamilton is your Drivers' World Champion for 2018, and why Mercedes are going to win the Constructors' Championship, and they've done it yet again. This qualifying session, excluding the whole Sergei Sirotkin stuff, in terms of pace and the result, is just clear evidence again as to why they are your world champions. But the big controversy is to do, I think, more with Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton in Q2 was building up for a lap in Q2 when Sergei Sirotkin, who was also on an out lap, was going a lot faster through turn 12, coming up to the final corner, Jinsao, and Sirotkin was trying to get past so he could start his lap. But then Lewis Hamilton moved across to the left, thinking that Sirotkin was going to go for the racing line. But then Sirotkin went to the inside because he didn't think Lewis Hamilton was going to give up the racing line at that particular time. Now, after looking back, and I have seen a few replays, I still stand by what I said in my qualifying watch along, which, by the way, guys, is in the description down below. If you haven't checked it out, please do. Lewis Hamilton deserves a penalty for what he did with Sergei Sirotkin. Yes, it's an outlap, I understand that, but it's still very dangerous to do that against another driver. It doesn't matter for me if he was on an outlap or not. It's very dangerous to do something like that, because if Sirotkin, say, he's not fully concentrating, or even if Hamilton was, say, slightly backed up more through that corner, if Sirotkin hits Hamilton, that's a massive accident, and Sirotkin could have gone over the top of Hamilton's car, because at that speed, when another car hits the back of a much slower car, that's what tends to happen. So Again, for me, Hamilton does deserve a penalty for what he did. I know there's going to be people who, who will disagree and say, again, it's an outlap and, what Hamilton did wasn't that bad and Sorokin wasn't going to get through, into Q3. But it doesn't matter. If you did that on the way to the grid, it's still worthy of a penalty. It's dangerous driving. It is way too dangerous for me. But there you go. And by the way, Lewis Hamilton is not getting a penalty because he's not even been investigated by the FIA, which for me, for there to not be at least an investigation is blasphemy. I can't believe that is the case. How are they not investigating him? I can't believe it. If they disagree with, say, us or me and say this is why we don't think it's a penalty, that's their opinion. But they have to at least investigate. And they haven't at all. It's baffling to me, honestly. It really, really is. Very, very baffling. I don't understand the FIA and their decision making. I don't get it. But there you go, guys. We'll now move on, though, to Lewis Hamilton and what he thought of his qualifying result. And this is what he thought. This is what he had to say. That was some qualifying session. The weather was going up and down. I'm really happy to be in Brazil. I've got Senna's design on the back of my helmet. I appreciate the love I get here. Of course, Ayrton Senna is Lewis Hamilton's hero. So, yeah, that's no real surprise that he gets the love for still modelling and celebrating Senna with his helmet. So there's no surprise there. And, of course, with the weather being up and down, it was definitely an exciting qualifying session. No doubt about it. Even though it barely rained at all, just the threat of rain made it an exciting qualifying session for me. So I'd have to agree with him there. And we go on to this. So this is his qualifying performance. Of course, finishing first. Has the new lap record of 107.281. But for Mercedes-Benz, this is their 100th pole position in F1. The drivers to get pole position for Mercedes are Sterling Moss, Juan Manuel Fangio, Nico Rosberg, Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. I don't know if they're counting Michael Schumacher at Monaco in 2012. Personally, I count it. So you could say 101 if they haven't counted it. But there you go. Their 100th pole position just shows you how successful they have been for a works team that haven't been in F1 that long as a works team since 1950. And it is Lewis Hamilton's third pole position in Brazil. His first was in 2012. His second was not last year, 2 years ago in 2016. And this is his third pole position. So, good result for Lewis, but I don't think he deserved and deserves, really, to be on pole. Because he should get a penalty for what he did. But moving on to Valtteri Bottas. For Valtteri, I guess, considering, he's not as quick as Vettel and Hamilton when it comes to qualifying or really race pace. But I'm kind of disappointed with Valtteri because, after Q2, he was faster than his teammate. Even though it was still close, I think it was half a tenth. Valtteri was faster and was looking good through qualifying up until Q3. So I am disappointed, with Valtteri. I think if he did a little bit better, it could be a Mercedes front row lockout. So, yeah, I think Valtteri definitely could have got more out of the car. I don't think he improved on his... I don't know if it was the middle or the first sector time that he didn't improve on, but there was one of the sectors where he actually went slower at the end of qualifying than he did in his first run in Q3. So he definitely could have gone faster, but there you go. He will start the Grand Prix from third place. And this is what he had to say after his third place finish. The margins here are small. I think pole was there for me to grab, but I couldn't take it today. The margin was small, but it was, but again, it was so close, and I think it was close enough, you know, for Valtteri to get. I absolutely think it was. So for me, for Valtteri, I wouldn't say not good enough, but there was slightly more in there, I think, for sure. There was slightly more in there for Valtteri. But we'll move on from Mercedes, who end up with a first and third place finish here in qualifying. And we go on to Ferrari and more controversy. And it's this time with Sebastian Vettel. We'll get onto that in a moment. But pace-wise, I'm very disappointed in Ferrari and Vettel and Raikkonen, you know, here today. They should, with the pace of the car, especially in the first and third sectors, Ferrari should have been getting pole position here. They really should. At the end of the day, this is a power circuit, and they do have the best straight line speed out of anyone. So, for me, not good enough. You know, them not getting pole position, just not good enough. They should, for me, have been getting at least a first and third place finish, but they just did not get it. Sebastian Vettel was very close pace-wise at the end, but just couldn't pull out any extra time. And as you'll hear in a moment, here he did push, I think, too hard in one of the corners, which did cost him pole position. But the controversy with Sebastian Vettel is the whole incident to do with the weighbridge. Now, after looking at the incident and hearing what Vettel actually did, I have now changed my opinion on, you know, Vettel not deserving a penalty, which I thought about 3 hours ago. For me, Vettel does deserve a penalty, just like Lewis Hamilton, because if you go back and look, one, Vettel knocks over the cone, you know, coming to the weighbridge, which I don't think, you know, is that big of a deal, but there you go. He then rushes onto the weighbridge. I think he keeps his engine running, which you're not supposed to do, because that affects the actual calculation of the weight of your car. So you're not supposed to do that, so fail to comply with the FIA, I think, steward that was there trying to do it, and then was adamant in trying to get off the weighbridge as soon as possible because the conditions were, you know, up in the air. So I think Sebastian Vettel did break the rules, and I think deserved a penalty. And you can say, oh, well, it's, you know, harsh or whatever. Rules are rules at the end of the day, and that's why I think Lewis Hamilton deserved his penalty. And that's why I thought, you know, last week that Haas deserved the penalty for the Italian Grand Prix disqualification because they broke the rules. At the end of the day, if you break the rules, clearly break the rules, then you deserve to be punished. And I can't believe that Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton today have not been punished for what is clearly breaking the rules. Now, Sebastian Vettel, by the way, the reason he hasn't got a penalty, I believe, is basically because the FIA, I don't know, I guess don't want to affect the race start tomorrow. I don't really know their reasoning, but basically, Sebastian Vettel has been fined, I believe, €25,000 and been given a reprimand for what he did. Now, for me, that's too soft. Too soft. Should be getting a penalty. I don't know what the actual penalty, you know, is, because it's never really happened before, something like that. But, you know, even if it's 10 places, if that's what the punishment should be, then you have to give it out, because he clearly broke the rules. He clearly broke the rules. So for me, when it comes to Sebastian Vettel, I just can't believe he didn't get a penalty. And again, same with Lewis Hamilton. But now we will move on from that controversy and go on to this quote from Sebastian Vettel about his qualifying result. This is what he had to say. "It was good fun. I had a tiny lock-up in turn 8, so on my second run I thought I'd go for it. It was very close, but just a bit too much." Well, Sebastian Vettel on his second run did not improve in the middle sector, and that's why he lost out on the run to pole position. That's why he lost out. If he did a green sector or even a purple sector in the middle sector, he probably would have took pole. But again, the mid sector cost Sebastian today. Very disappointing for Ferrari. I really thought they'd get pole. This track does suit them. And I just can't believe they've thrown away a pole position here. I can't believe they've done so. They should, though, have the race pace to win tomorrow. But, pole position in F1, it's such an important thing to have. Other tracks, it's not as important as others. But, again, that's why you want to be qualifying in first. And preferably on the front row with both cars, to give yourself the best opportunity, to go win the race on the Sunday. But Ferrari just don't seem to be able to do that right now. It's very, very disappointing. And, well, you can see here how Ferrari, throughout qualifying, just disappointed. So, in Q1, they were second and third, behind Max Verstappen, who was fastest in Q1. Then in Q2, Sebastian Vettel was second and Kimi Raikkonen was fifth as Bottas was fastest. And then, of course, they ended up second and fourth at the end of qualifying. But for the Grand Prix, this is very important. Both Ferraris start on the soft tyre. Mercedes and Red Bull, and by the way, this will only happen if the start tomorrow is dry, and we don't know that for a fact. But if the start tomorrow is dry, Ferrari will be on the soft tyre, and both Mercedes and both Red Bull cars will be on the super soft tyres. So Ferrari, when it comes to the tyres, are looking good. They are looking good, and they should have a good enough strategy for tomorrow, in my opinion. So even though qualifying was disappointing, there is still a race, of course, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ferrari went and took victory. They definitely do have the pace to do so. Let me just clear my throat, guys. Sorry about my throat, by the way. It's very, very sore right now. I've been doing a lot of commentating, but there you go. Move on to Kimi Raikkonen. Kimi Raikkonen, also, for me, disappointing. I thought Kimi would be in the top 3. But I guess just like his teammate and Ferrari as a whole, they did not have the pace to get what they should have got out of qualifying. Of course, in the race, he's on a favourable strategy, as you can see there, on the soft compound tyre. But, again, I'm so disappointed with Ferrari. I don't know what you guys think. I'll come to the chat in a moment, but I am very disappointed in what Ferrari have performed like today. But there you go. And we will move on from Ferrari and quickly go on to Red Bull, who had a very just not really newsworthy type qualifying session, you have to say. They pretty much qualified where we thought they would qualify, in P5 and P6. The Red Bull, of course, is so slow down the straights that they're not going to be at this circuit anywhere near quick enough compared to Mercedes and Ferrari to actually you know, compete for pole position. So no surprise they're in P5 and P6. But Daniel Ricciardo, of course, qualifying in P6 with that 5-place grid penalty for changing his turbo, will start the race from P11. So there you go. Daniel Ricciardo starts P11. Max Verstappen will start in P5. I think Red Bull, if it's in the race, they may be able to finish ahead of one of the Mercedes or one of the Ferraris. Because, of course, Red Bull do have good tyre wear. But they're going to be praying for rain. Because I don't see realistically how Red Bull can end up on the podium in dry conditions. I don't see it. So definitely they are going to be praying for rain. I'll just cut onto an image here of Daniel Ricciardo. But yeah, Red Bull, if it does rain, I think they will come alive. But in the dry, they won't be miles off. But they're not going to be quick enough to get a podium. But guys, what do you think about those three teams? For Mercedes, what do you think of their performance and the Hamilton and Sorokin, whole incident? For Ferrari, what do you think of their performance and the Sebastian, Vettel and weighbridge incident? And for Red Bull, what do you think they can do tomorrow? Can they do anything when it comes to getting a podium in the dry and in the wet? Do you think they'll go for victory? Or do you think a podium is the maximum, no pun intended, they can get? Put in the chat right now and I will answer any questions and read out your comments for the next few minutes. Right, let's take a look. This should be quite tasty. Right, I'm going to look through and try and find the ones about Hamilton and Sorokin and Vettel. Just looking. Right, so Somnath Joe, Vettel was penalised, was not a mistake, also a racing incident, lock up. Okay, I think he's answering someone else there. JB saying FIA decisions are BS. Yep, absolutely. I'm just trying to look. Count B Blah, the fine for Seb was okay if it never happened before. There's no precedent for breaking the machine. True, but you know, you can also set a precedent, so they could have done that. Simon Cragland, K-Mag got a penalty in Bahrain 2016 for doing the same thing as Vettel did today, basically. On Danish TV, they confirmed that as well. But I don't think drivers should get penalty for something like that. Yeah, this is the thing. This is the thing that people need to understand with me. When it comes to the rules, there are rules that I disagree with in terms of those rules existing. But when it comes to the application of the rule, all rules should be applied fully. Even if I disagree with those rules existing, or you guys disagree with those rules existing, if a rule is in place, it should be applied and enforced. So, you know, even if we disagree with this rule, it's there and it should be applied with full force. So, the FIA, they're not consistent when it comes to their rules. Not at all. Right, let me just... I'm just looking through to see. Legion, this Haas being... sorry. I'm just trying to read up that Haas pun. It's just gone past the screen. This has been very controversial. With me, it's difficult to say that because I know some people call Haas Haas, or Haas, sorry, and I call them Haas, so yeah. Right. I'm just looking. That's John sharing his thoughts about Lewis Hamilton. Ronan Brady, what a joke. I'm considering not watching tomorrow in protest, but I will probably end up watching. Yep, you probably will. Just looking through the chat. I'm trying to make sure I cover some people's comments about Hamilton and Sorokin. So if you do have some, make sure to put it in the chat right now and I will cover it as much as I can. Because I want to get everyone's point of view here. Simon Cragland saying Hamilton made the difference once again. Ferrari had the faster car. Vettel made a couple mistakes on his lap. He also confirmed that himself. Yes, he did. We just read out the quote there, didn't we? And he did confirm that. Sebastian, it's ridiculous how Hamilton didn't get a penalty but still think Vettel will win the race since Mercedes have bad tyre wear. Yep, I think Ferrari are still favourites for winning a Grand Prix. Or winning the Grand Prix tomorrow. Andrew Drury, Hamilton and Vettel take each other out at turn 1. Bottas has a gearbox failure. Max takes out Kimi. Ricciardo engine explodes and Ericsson wins. If that happened and he won. Wow. Wow. Andrew Drury, can't say I saw Sky Sports campaigning. Let me just scroll up. Campaigning for Lewis to get a penalty. They're not going to because they are a bit biased towards Lewis Hamilton. They are. I don't think they would really deny it either. Alexandra Lewis, I think it is unfathomable that a simple fine is a justified punishment for damaging FIA's property. For Hamilton, I don't know. As I've said, both should get penalties. No doubt for me. Sonmath Joe, Sorokin was on an outlap, but it does not mean that this is fair. Also, Lewis accused him for dangerous driving. I also want to make that point as well. Hamilton commented about that and said that Sorokin drove disrespectfully. What is he on about? At the end of the day, and I think he said this in the post press conference, did Lewis Hamilton, saying there's a code of conduct, what you should or should not do. There's also a code of conduct saying no matter if it's an out lap or a qualifying lap or whatever, if there is a guy behind you going a lot faster, you get off the racing line and let the guy take the racing line. There's also that code of conduct. I know what he's talking about. He's talking about on an out lap, don't go way too fast than I'm expecting you to. But at the end of the day, the drivers are allowed to go as fast as they want on an out lap. They don't have to go slow or, medium speed. They can go as fast as they want. If they want, out of the pits, they can do a qualifying lap straight away if they wanted to, and it doesn't break the rules doing that. So I don't get what Lewis is saying there. And I think it's a bit hypocritical when he says the code of conduct, when the code of conduct, within the drivers also is if someone behind you is on a qualifying, or not a qualifying lap, but it's going a lot faster than you compared to you, get off the racing line and give him the racing line because he's going a lot faster. That's how motorsport works. So there you go. Simon Cragland, I completely agree what you are saying about the Hamilton and Sorokin incident, or what you will call it. Ronan Brady, I think letting the big drivers and big teams away with things pretty much sums up things like Sauber and Force India complaining over unfairness. Yeah, I see your point. I'm just trying to read a few more here. There's plenty of comments about this. It's great to hear your guys' opinion. Bloody hell, there's a lot of comments. Scars, Heyman, Strong, Grosjean did a similar thing in 2017 USA with Hamilton, but they were on a hot lap. Also, the final corner where Stroll mixed, and it ended almost in tears. I remember that incident. I can't remember. I think it was Stroll who was the one who was going slowly, and I think Stroll did get a penalty for that. But it doesn't matter if it's a hot lap or an out lap. You shouldn't be doing something like that. Seirugara, I think Vettel's punishment was about right. Hit him where it hurts most. Take money from him so he has less Christmas bank. And reprimand him. I don't think it'll make a difference, to be honest. Those right now hurt more than a penalty. I'll leave it at that. Ericsson starting P6. What drug am I on? A very good one. I can't believe Ericsson's going to be starting from P6. Alexander Lewis, I will say that Lewis did get off racing line and Sorokin went in the same direction, hence, I don't know. The thing is, Sorokin decided to go to the inside before Lewis decided. You know, wherever the faster guy wants to go, you need to be on the other side. But, you know, if Lewis was off the racing line before Sorokin even came through, Sorokin would have stayed on the racing line, it would have been fine. So, both ways, it doesn't really matter. In terms of the Hamilton-Sorokin incident, it doesn't matter if it was an outlap, it was a dangerous driving by Lewis. That's in Prussia. Yep, agreed. Thank you, Max Claydon. I will take a look after this stream finishes. I can't take a look now, unfortunately. Chaz, they were both on the outlap. Yes, they were, but what Lewis did was dangerous, whether it's an outlap, a formation lap, or a qualifying lap. It doesn't really matter for me. Scuderia D, I think Hamilton should get a penalty. Vettel totally deserved it, but also Sorokin's fault since he could have also caused a big crash. So it's both of their fault. Vettel fine is clearly obvious. I don't think Sorokin could have done that much, to be honest. He is allowed to go as fast as he wants on an outlap. So, you know, it's not his issue if Lewis is going slowly and he's going a lot faster. It's not his issue. I'm waiting for your explanation because Hamilton moved off the racing line. That's on Femi CEO. He did, but Sorokin decided to go to the inside before Lewis then came across to the inside, and Lewis was not off the racing line until Sorokin showed up. He came off the racing line too late. So, and you know, it's not also just his fault, it's also the fault of the Mercedes engineers, because they should be watching out for Sorokin coming around quickly at that time. Max Claydon, please make a video about the thing flying between Sebastian's legs. So Chaz, what should Hamilton have done? This is the thing, you know, and it's also, again, Mercedes' fault and their engineers' fault, because they should have been keeping an eye on Sorokin, I think, a bit more on how quick he was going, but I think just keep to the inside line a lot earlier instead of last second then coming off the racing line, because again, when he came off the racing line, it was too late. Sorokin had already decided to go down the inside because he saw Hamilton on the racing line. It was too late. Just looking at some more comments. I will, by the way, guys, go onto the midfield very soon, but I just want to keep looking and reading your comments out about this. Just looking. Sonmath Joe, Lewis is free to do anything on the track. No rules for him, and I think He'll be declared winner tomorrow after the formation lap by Stewart. Just all are disqualified for speeding more than Lewis. Just looking. Right, I'm trying to find a couple more comments. Femi CEO, Mercedes told Hamilton Sirotkin is on an outlap and they gave him a 4-second difference. But, yes, they told him it was on an outlap, but they should have told him, you know, maybe, you know, he's coming up very fast on you. Maybe they should have told him that. Because, I mean, I haven't seen the full replay of Sirotkin's outlap, and I don't think anyone has. But Mercedes, if they saw Sirotkin's, tracker on the tracker, which they all have, if they saw Sirotkin's tracker moving a bit or a lot faster than Lewis's, and Sirotkin was closing Lewis down on the outlap in terms of the gap, they should have been saying, he's closing down on you a lot and going a lot faster. Maybe, just move off and let him through. Dexter Hall, are you saying Lewis knew he was there, stayed in on purpose? No, he didn't do it on purpose. He just reacted badly at the time. Yeah, I think we'll move on to the midfield now, guys. Because as Andrew Drury says, we're 37 minutes in. We haven't even moved on to the midfield. But, of course, with the controversy, I have to cover everything with you guys. I want to get all of your opinions out there. So, there you go. But we will actually talk about it slightly more once we get to Williams. Because I do have a quote from Sergei Sirotkin. But let's move on to the midfield, and first off, McLaren. Now, McLaren pace-wise were as slow as we expect them to be, 18th and 20th. So poor, and the only real news today is nothing to do with McLaren in 2018 or McLaren at the Brazilian Grand Prix, because it was announced after qualifying that Fernando Alonso for 2019 will be competing in the Indy 500 with McLaren. So Fernando Alonso is going back to Indianapolis. Great to see that and hear that. But concentrating on today, yeah, very, very poor. And they probably did have the worst car out there. Even Fernando Alonso, for how great he is, could only put the car in 18th place. That just shows you how bad the McLaren is. Very, very poor from McLaren, but to be honest, was to be expected. Also, though, very poor was Renault. Renault, 14th and 16th. Now, I thought that Renault would not be in the top 10 at all in qualifying, or really, to be honest, in the race coming up tomorrow. But to be 14th and 16th, that is just so bad, and it shows you why we think, and I think it's pretty much true, and Renault don't want to admit it, they have the worst power unit on the grid, because Pierre Gasly, look where he was. He qualified in 10th and was way faster around this short track than Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz. So it's unbelievable that Renault at power circuits have gone backwards this fast. Now, I know Renault, when it comes to power, have not always been great. But if you go back to Canada, at the Canadian Grand Prix, Renault were the best of the rest and the best in the midfield, despite not having the most powerful engine in the midfield. And Renault's engine at the time was better than Honda's and was very competitive with Mercedes and Ferrari at that time. But now, they're so far off. It's unbelievable that this company, with all their, all the money they have, is this far off when it comes to sheer power against Mercedes, Ferrari, and are now behind Honda. I just can't believe it, honestly. I cannot believe it. But there you go. Very poor from Renault. What can they do tomorrow? I don't think much. If it rains, I think they'll be good. But if it's dry, I don't see how they can finish in the points. And next up is Force India. Force India also not good at all. Normally Brazil is a good track for Force India, but today and this weekend, Force India just have not been fast. To me, they look as though they have at best the 6th fastest car and at worst the 7th fastest car, maybe behind Toro Rosso. Because as we know, Brendan Hartley doesn't get the best out of that car really ever, so you have to look towards Pierre Gasly to how quick the Toro Rosso actually is. But wow, I can't believe they're this poor at Brazil. Again, normally at Brazil, Force India are at worst, 5th fastest. And normally at the front of the midfield. But this weekend, they're just nowhere. They're absolutely nowhere. And I don't think this is going to get better for the race because the cars ahead of them are just, they're generally faster. The Haas's, the Saubers, maybe Gasly and the Toro Rosso as well in race pace terms will be quick and quicker than Force India. I don't know, but I can't believe they're this slow. And Esteban Ocon, by the way, will have a 5-place grid penalty for tomorrow. So he will start in 18th place. But I just want you guys to take a look at this. Because, of course, Force India and McLaren are battling in these final 2 races for P6 in the Constructors. And this is what the 2 teams did in qualifying today. So Perez, of course, in P12. Ocon was 13th, but will start 18th because of that penalty. Alonso qualified in 18th, but starts 17th because of Ocon's penalty. And then Van Dorn, again, last of all. So Force India, of course, faster than McLaren, but not fast enough. They had to be at least in the top 10 in qualifying. And they have to be scoring points, but I don't see how they can in normal dry conditions. So I'd have to say Force India's chances of, getting the points needed to beat McLaren is pretty much over. I don't see it. I really do not see it. But there you go for Force India. Before I go on to the rest of the midfield, I just want to say, because I rambled on so long with the whole Hamilton, Sirotkin and Vettel stuff, what I'm going to do is just go straight onto the final 4 teams. So we now go on to Williams. Now Williams did not have the slowest car today. They did not. I think they had a faster car than McLaren. Sergei Sirotkin was in P15. A very good performance by Sergei. But of course, with him, massive controversy with Lewis Hamilton. Was he blocked? Was he not? Was it dangerous driving from Lewis Hamilton? We kind of just answered that. But let's hear from Sergei Sirotkin his thoughts on what happened. Let's just get it up here. So there you go. This is what he said. Hamilton is a champion and knows what he's doing. I think he was just trying to give me the racing line, which he did not expect. In the end, though, it didn't cost me anything. Now, when he says it didn't cost me anything, he means, I think, well, only one thing. It was his outlap, and he could still set himself up for the lap without that incident. But the reason I think, Hamilton should get a penalty is because what Lewis Hamilton did was very dangerous, swerving across the track. So, yeah, but there you go. That is Sergei Sirotkin's thoughts on what happened. And we now go on to Toro Rosso. Pierre Gasly, very good performance in P10. And I have to say, I think Gasly's performance today has been very underrated. Because, his car is not as suited to this track, or shouldn't be as suited to to this track as the Force India or the Haas. But he's ahead of one of the Haas's and 2 of the Force Indias. And I think that just shows you, one, Pierre Gasly has been, definitely been getting more consistent this season and is starting to show a bit why he's at Red Bull for 2019. But it also shows you that Honda are making progress, and they do have, I think, the third best engine right now in F1. Of course, tomorrow there's a big test. Hopefully they do finish the race and get into the points. But I think so far Honda have passed the test, and it's great to see, you know, that Toro Rosso are doing well, because I remember this time last year with the Renault engines, Toro Rosso were constantly blowing up. They didn't have any pace. They were nowhere this time last year. But now, with the Honda power unit, they're going places. And hopefully for Honda, in 2019, so are they. Next up is Haas. Now Haas, I have to say, like Ferrari, disappointing. Very disappointing. They had to be, at least, for me, P7 and P8 on the grid. They had the best car in the midfield all the way up until basically Q3. And then, you know, or it's maybe into Q2 you could argue, of obviously Magnussen going out in Q2. But, you know, you get to Q3 and nothing. No pace. Now, I know they were ahead of Pierre Gasly, but Gasly, in his Toro Rosso, no disrespect to Pierre, but he couldn't seriously compete, really, with Grosjean, Ericsson and Leclerc, because their cars are a lot more suited to this track. But for Grosjean and Haas to be behind both Saubers, I'm sorry, not good enough. Not good enough at all. Kevin Magnussen, P11. Now, he does have, of course, a free choice of tyres for the race, and is the first driver to have that. But he should be in P7 and P8 and starting the race up in 6th and 7th, of course, with Ricciardo's penalty. He really should, but when it mattered, Haas, pace-wise, didn't show up. And normally when it comes to qualifying, Haas do show up. When they bottle it, it's normally on race day. So, again, so disappointing. Very similar to Ferrari. Had the pace through practice, looked good, but when it came to the crunch, they just didn't perform. So very disappointing. But in the race tomorrow, there is a chance for a good points finish, but they're definitely now not going to beat Renault for 4th in the constructors. But we'll now move on to our final team, Sauber. And what a performance from Sauber. P7 and P8. Marcus Ericsson will start in P6, and Marcus Ericsson has had his best qualifying of his career so far and is the driver of qualifying today. Absolutely no doubt about it. What a performance. And he deserves it, because in 2018, coming into 2018, I thought Ericsson was the worst on the grid. And he has absolutely changed my mind this season. He's had a great season for me. He stepped his game up because of the arrival of Charles Leclerc and his great performances. Had plenty of points finishes and is ending the season so strongly. It's such a shame he couldn't do this maybe more consistently, you know, in the middle part of the season during the summer. But what a performance. What a performance. And it shows to me what I've been thinking ever since the news has been announced. Marcus Ericsson should be at Sauber for 2019 alongside Kimi Raikkonen. He deserves it. He's been fantastic this season, considering that Charles Leclerc is way faster and insanely more talented. But Ericsson this season has been good. So I don't understand still why Ericsson is not at Sauber for 2019. I know, you know, Ferrari want their guy in, but Ericsson has been very, very good this season and has had, in my opinion, his best season in F1 this season. So, you know, disappointing from that point of view. But there you go. P7 qualifies but starts P6. Charles Leclerc was starting P7. He was also good. Let's not forget that. But I think he will be disappointed to be out-qualified by Ericsson, because when it comes to qualifying, Leclerc is normally destroying Marcus Ericsson. But there you go. Hopefully Sauber tomorrow do have a good race. They look very, very quick. And if a couple of the top guys drop out, Sauber could pick up a lot of points tomorrow. But guys, what do you think about all of those midfield teams? All of the performances? Put in the chat right now, and for the next few minutes I will answer any questions and read out your comments. Right, let's take a look. Let's take a look. I'm just going to scroll up a minute to see what you guys are saying. Motorsport Tube. Haas are in their third season and have done quite well overall though. In 2018, Haas have been very good pace-wise. I think results-wise, it could have been a lot better, but I think that's because they're inexperienced. But, you know, as you said, it's only their third year in the sport. So, very good, to be honest, considering it's their third year in the sport. They are doing way better than Caterham, Marussia, and HRT were doing in their third year in the sport, which was 2012. They were nowhere near being fourth in the constructors. Haas have been fantastic and have clearly been a great addition to the grid. Absolutely. Simon Cragland says he's surprised about Force India's pace. Force India can't get P6 anymore, I think. Yep, I agree. I don't think they will. Hello to Alex. I think Alex Ruane, the DC Sports Addict. Hello to you. Just looking at some more comments. JB Sorokin knows he can't talk. Bleep about Hamilton. Hamilton is just the big boy of the grid. That it does come across a bit like that. He doesn't want to ruffle any feathers now, does he? Andrew Drury, which is worse, the 2017 Sauber or the 2018 Williams? The 2018 Williams is worse because I think aerodynamically the 2017 Sauber at that time compared to, you know, the other teams was better. And you have to remember, Sauber had a year-old Ferrari power unit, so that's why they were so far at the back. Williams have a new, you know, Mercedes power unit. They have a discount for the Mercedes power unit as well. And, you know, they've got Paddy Lowe, first full year designing the car. And Paddy Lowe, of course, has a great history, you know, designing the McLaren of the late 2000s and early 2010s. And then, of course, the Mercedes that dominated the sport from 2014 to 20... Well, you can say to right now. He designed the cars, though, in 2014, 15 and 16. And nothing has gone right for them. Nothing has gone right for them. So, yeah, definitely Williams. Legion, what should McLaren do to become competitive again? Find someone with a strong and just a strong personality and mentality whose name is not Zach Brown, because Zach Brown is not good enough to be in that position. He is, at the end of the day, a car salesman. That's what he is. He's a car salesman. He's not equipped to run McLaren. He's not. McLaren are a massive team. And he is not, for me, qualified to do that job. Max Claydon, when you go through the midfield teams, just call them the Formula 1.5 teams. Yeah, I probably should, but well, hopefully for next year that is not the case. Simon Craglan Williams basically said to Paddy Lowe, build this car on your own. Yeah, they did. And he did. Yeah, as you said, failed massively. He had a full year to learn the team, you know, learn what the Williams car was all about in 2017 and what can be improved upon. And he made it worse than the 2017 car. How is that even possible for a guy that apparently good? I don't think Paddy Lowe is as good as people make him out to be. I think he is overrated as a designer. Just look at his 2013 McLaren that he designed. Not exactly, you know, striking it out of the park with that one, but yeah. Right, I'm going to read a few more comments. Let me just have a look. Has been great as always, guys, for you to come along to this review of qualifying and share your opinions on all of the controversy and what has happened here in Brazil in qualifying. Let's have a look. People saying skip the team with the best chassis on the grid. Legion, he's no Adrian Newey. No one is, but he's not. I wouldn't say he's in my top 3 designers on the grid. I think top 3 designers would have to be Adrian Newey, James Allison, and in third, who would I put in third? I don't know, maybe, who's his name? Nick Chester at Renault. That's one to mention. He's a good one. James Key. I'd definitely put them ahead of Paddy Lowe, for sure. Because Paddy Lowe has designed cars, yes, that have been successful, but not necessarily because of the aerodynamics, and has also designed a couple of cars, this Williams and the 2013 McLaren, which have been dogs. Absolute dogs. Femi CEO, Paddy made the Williams aero too sensitive like the Merc. He left, unfortunately. Williams don't have the money to develop the aerodynamics. Yeah, and this is the problem, is for Williams, the only chance they have to be good for a season is if they get the car right immediately at the start of the year, because if they don't get it right at the start of the year like they did for this season, they don't have the money to improve upon that during the season like a Renault does or like Mercedes, Ferrari or Red Bull do. They don't have the money to do so, or even Sauber, with Alfa Romeo of course backing them. So for Williams, if they turn up next season with a car just as bad if not worse in pre-season testing, they're done, because they're not going to develop the car with the money they have, because the money they have is not as much as other teams. So there you go. Dexter Hall, imagine a Mercedes power unit and a Newey chassis car. If the Mercedes was in the Red Bull this year, then Red Bull would win at least the Drivers' Championship. I'm just looking at some more comments. I want to make sure I read out all of your comments, of course. Matt Claydon has a suggestion, I think, for a video or for my watch-alongs. When you have the race watch-along, you should keep Pure Pit Wall open on your PC monitors. I always use it during races. It gives you things like fastest laps, weather, predicted pit strategy. I'll take a look, and if it's good, then maybe I'll use it for the final race. Because I have been trying to find some kind of, website that will give information and also, the running order and stuff like that. I have been looking for stuff like that. Just haven't found a website. But, right, I'll read out a few more comments and then I will end this review of qualifying. Is that Glock? Legion. If Williams goes, I will be very sad. They were once the forefront of British Grand Prix racing. They survived so much ups and downs. It would be sad, but I wouldn't feel sorry for them, because at the end of the day, if they do go out of business, it's because of their own decisions. That's why. They have made decisions that have put themselves in this position, and it's the same for McLaren. The reason McLaren are in the state they're in now is because of themselves. They cannot blame anyone else. They have to look internally at the issues, not at, Renault, Honda, whatever. They can't look at them anymore. Max Clayton saying he will catch me tomorrow for the race watch along. Thank you very much, mate, for coming along, and yep, hopefully I will catch you for the race watch along. I'm about to update you guys as to when I'll be live tomorrow for the race watch along. Simon Cragland Gasly was good today. Ocon wrote on Instagram that Force India had the pace to go to Q3. Well, did they really? I mean, in Q1, I don't think they were in the top 10 either. So I'm not sure about that. Scuderia D, please don't mention Glock. Right, I'll read out a couple more comments and then I will get to the end of this stream. Say Rugara, Williams and McLaren especially. Williams are just so miserable. It's horrible to see, as these are the two of the 5 most successful teams of all time. Yeah, it is sad, but again, I won't feel sorry for them if they get worse, because they've put themselves in this situation. Goodbye to Scuderia D, who's going to go. Andrew Drew, these are the illegal streams I normally use, working very well today. I'm not going to comment any further on that. Right, I'll read out a couple more comments. Let me just I'm trying to find a very good one to end on. Simon Cragland, K-Mag was very unlucky. His first lap wasn't that great, but in his second attempt he lost 3 to 5 tenths of a second in the last sector because of the rain. Yeah, that is unfortunate, but I think Haas should have sent him out at the end of the session just in case it was dry enough, and it was, because look at what Charles Leclerc did in the Sauber. So there you go. Right. Let me just find a final comment if I can. Right, I'll end on this. Let me just find it. It just went away. Andrew Drury, McLaren, this is what he says about McLaren. McLaren have been going downhill since 2012, the year that they started building the road cars. I doubt that's a coincidence. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if them focusing more on that has caused, those issues. I don't really know what to say anymore about McLaren. It's getting to the point where they're kind of irrelevant, and it's sad to say that. And I said this in my practice review. I think that McLaren are so consistently slow now. There's no point talking about them, and I can't believe we're at that point with McLaren where there's nothing to talk about. It is so sad. But guys, that is it for this stream. And now I'm going to update you guys as to the schedule for the next 2 videos to do with the Brazilian Grand Prix. So this is what's going down tomorrow at 4 PM UK time. I will be live for the race watch along, and I'll be live until probably 7:30/8 PM UK time. So that's what's going down tomorrow. Tomorrow, and then on Monday I'll be live again at 6 PM UK time for the race review for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Hopefully there is something very exciting and controversial again to talk about on Monday evening. But guys, thank you very much for this qualifying review. If you are new to the channel, we do this every race weekend, so don't forget to subscribe on the bottom right of the screen, or click on my channel name and go to my channel page and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like this video and comment down below what you thought of this video and what did you think of qualifying, and what did you think of the Hamilton and Sirotkin incident and the incident with Sebastian Vettel to do with the weighbridge. What did you think of those incidents, and do you think Hamilton and Vettel deserved penalties? Put in the comments and I will try and answer in the best way I can. Also, don't forget to join our Discord server, link below in the description. Discord is the best way for you guys to get notifications for my videos. So if you want notifications for my videos, join the Discord server down below. The link is at the very bottom of the description as well. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110. A great place to keep up to date with me and the channel. And don't forget as well to check out chazrhd.com, link below in the description. Another way to keep up to date with me and the videos I upload. But guys, thank you very much for this qualifying review as always. And until tomorrow for the race watch along, it's been me, ChazRHD. Goodbye.